Align with your heart and shift to a new reality. What does that mean, to align with your heart and then to shift into a new reality? It actually might be a little bit more simple than we think. The key is that we can't think ourselves into a new reality. We can't think ourselves into aligning with our heart. Shifting into a new reality, a reality that you actually desire, that you actually want for yourself, that may look quite different from the reality that you're currently experiencing, really has to do with coming more and more consistently and persistently into your heart space. Allowing yourself to spend more time in your authenticity, in your truth. Allowing yourself to experience more flow states, more synchronicity, more of that generous, peaceful state of being. I imagine that most, if not all of you, have had those moments where you felt deeply in touch with something deeper, something more alive, something really visceral within yourself. Those moments where your mind, that cloudiness, that anxiety, that fear, that restlessness, that sadness, that anger and frustration, or feeling of being a victim in the world, whatever that might be, anger at how unfair life can feel and does feel at times, where all of that is very much in the background and you're not even really aware of those feelings. It almost feels like, how did I even feel that way? Like, I feel so alive and present. I feel so in the moment. I feel so connected to my heart right now that I can't imagine really going back into that lower vibration of feeling all those intense emotions. And this isn't to create some kind of dichotomy and thinking that, or, separation between like dark and light emotions and good and bad. That's not the point of any of this. Those lower vibrational emotions aren't inherently bad. They're a part of our human experience. And there's divine lessons within those lower vibrational emotional states. There's a gift within those states too. And an opportunity in those moments when we're feeling kind of overtaken by a storm of heavy emotions to do something supportive for ourselves, to allow ourselves to come home to our hearts and allow those emotions to soften and dissipate, and to nurture ourselves when we're feeling a heavy emotion like anger or fear, anxiety, worthlessness, not enough, or too much, whatever that might be. There's an opportunity to go into a meditative state, to do some reflective journaling, whatever that is for you that supports you the most, that will help to alleviate and dissipate those heavy emotions in that moment, so that you can come back into your heart space and feel, okay, these storms of emotions, which are human and there's absolutely nothing wrong with them, so I'm done judging them, or at least I'm going to try my best to judge them less and less, even if I can't full out just stop judging them. I'm going to hold myself with more compassion, more understanding, especially given the childhood experiences you had, what you were taught in your early life, likely not to value your authenticity or your self-worth, oftentimes to people please and be something in particular for your parents, to keep winning approval from others. That's a deep conditioning, and it happens to, unfortunately, direct and cloud and create frames for the way we see ourselves and that we see life and move about in our daily life. But we still have choice. We have choice to see those, to observe those moments, those heavy, painful moments where anxiety or fear seems a bit overwhelming. Or maybe it's anger, shame, guilt, whatever it is. We have the opportunity to remove some of that belief and that power from that emotional storm that's presenting itself in the moment, knowing that it too is going to pass, and allowing ourselves to feel nurtured by ourselves, by our true, authentic, deep, loving, kinder, compassionate parent. That is the act of beginning to reparent ourselves. One small technique I'll demonstrate really quick that can sometimes help and sometimes not, especially if it's a bigger emotional storm. I find that this particular technique may not help as much, but for a smaller one where we just feel a little bit triggered and a little bit frustrated, or it's a softer, difficult emotion that's more for a small event in our lives. But one small technique you can do is called havening, and it's a really helpful, especially if it's not a big emotional challenge. It's a smaller, heavy emotion, but nevertheless it's there, and you're triggered in a lighter way, and you feel the initial spark of something painful coming up. This is usually before you've started a huge mental loop about it and it's become something really charged. But in the moment where you start to feel a bit of frustration and a story might be starting to arise in you that triggers one of your painful framings about yourself or about the world or about somebody else, about how others treat you or whatever it might be, havening can be a very helpful resource. And it's very, very simple. This is for lighter emotions, so please consult a therapist or a trained psychiatrist, medical professional, especially if you're experiencing heavier emotional storms very often. And this probably won't work for more difficult, consistent emotional energies. It's really just one small technique that you could use if you choose to. So, havening has to do with, there's 3 ways I find you can do it, but you could expand those ways in addition, because I don't always stick to these one of these 3 ways. But the most common ways would be to just rub your hands together just at the onset of feeling the first initial spark of a difficult emotion. You're aware of it, you've caught it, you're not 100% identified with it. So one thing you might do is start rubbing your hands together, just like I'm doing right here. And just kind of, it's a really grounding kind of practice. Really attending your attention in that moment as best you can through the feeling of rubbing your hands together and how that might feel kind of soothing. Just to touch your hands and feel that warmth and that friction can help bring you a little bit more back into your body and feel a bit more grounded. And another one is to just down your arms right here from shoulder to elbow. Just go down from shoulder to elbow and just feel that touch. That can feel really soothing for some, and for some, this one may not feel so soothing. So you have to pick and choose what works for you. Kind of that soft, grounding touch can help bring you into your body. Even sometimes I find that just this, it's a little lighter. It feels a little like more nurturing and soft than just this particular motion. So for me in particular, I happen to enjoy this kind of like soft patting, gripping kind of motion on my arms. It just feels a little bit more grounding for me personally. So that's one. It's almost like butterfly wings, if you want to call it that. Like sort of giving yourself a butterfly hug can be one helpful somatic practice. And another one, but I'm just rubbing my forehead really lightly, really intentionally. I'm putting my attention right now on the feeling of rubbing my forehead, to feel the connection between my forehead and my hands and the warmth of that touch. Another one I found helpful is to kind of rub right here on my legs. I will move the camera for a minute just so you can get a sense of that. Just sort of that grounding, like right on the outer part of your thigh right there. That can feel grounding too. Okay, I'm gonna move the camera back up. But you really have to kind of choose what feels right to you. And there's a fourth one that I just think can be somewhat soothing. And this fourth one might be more easy to do if you're not in public, because it might look a little strange sometimes to start rubbing your legs. This one might be better to do in the privacy of your own home. So those are just a couple different somatic exercises that you might try, again, when you're just feeling the initial emotional energy. So I did want to share that, but I also want to get back to talking a little bit more about really getting into this feeling tone of aligning with your heart. What does that look like? I think in order to come home to our heart space, in order to align with our truth, our deeper reality of who we are, and to kind of allow ourselves to begin to move into a higher vibrational reality, the life that we've always dreamed of living, but aren't seeing reflected back in our immediate life and experiences right now. There really is, and this is something I've struggled with too, I have to admit, there really is a need to become more and more consistent with your energy field. There's a need to bring in a more visceral daily practice of feeling grateful for that new reality. Embody that reality as much as possible and feel lots of gratitude for that new reality, that individual, that person, that energy that you most want to embody and feel in your life. That is the energy, being that reality within yourself, within the feeling tone of your embodied experience in the here and now, is the way, in a sense, to collapse timelines, or to at least shorten that timeline that could take a lot longer or maybe not happen at all in this particular lifetime if you are constantly putting up a lot of resistance and not believing in it, more so going through some motions and wanting that, but mostly just from a mental level, but not actually taking time every single day, having a practice of experiencing and awakening into that reality in your embodied lived experience and state, finding yourself more and more in these flow states without the mind so present, so visceral, and chatting in your ear about all these. A lot of times for a lot of people, and for myself, my mind has been fairly self-critical. It's been critical of myself, very judgmental of myself for not being good enough or perfect enough. And that, of course, came from having one very narcissistic parent in my household and constantly being criticized as a child, that became a very strong childhood wound, inner child wound, that I've had to consistently learn to nurture and work with and self-soothe. Havening is one of those methods, but so is meditation. Journaling practices can be very helpful. Reading, reflecting, and then also, of course, taking action and applying those lessons. So this greater opportunity to shift into a reality that you really want for yourself is kind of the ironic key, is to also not place so much importance on that happening and happening within a certain timeline or time frame, because the more that we put pressure on ourselves, the more that we have an energy of desperation or grasping or wanting, and like a seriousness, like a mental seriousness of making something that we want, right? We want it because it's like we identify it subconsciously or consciously as outside of us, as away from us, as we don't have it already. So therefore it's apart from us. The more that we hold that energy of this thing that I deeply desire is apart from me, is out there, and it's something that I have to struggle to get, something that I have to force, something that I have to mentally like exert a lot of energy and control to get, that actually pushes that thing that we really want further away from us. It creates an energy of resistance, which is the opposite of feeling and embodying that thing as already here, as already ours, as already our reality. That extends time instead of collapsing or shortening whatever time. And the key is really to not worry about time so much, to every day take the consistent steps of nurturing ourselves, nurturing our inner lives, being loving and kind to that wounded inner child part that maybe had at least one very critical parent in the household, or punishing parent, or had an absent parent who wasn't available, emotionally available at all. Maybe it wasn't that the parent wasn't really mean or really kind, or just kind of pretty unavailable, just going through the motions of life. And that can be very painful too, because that can feel like a wound of neglect and not being seen. But the key takeaway is to give ourselves what we didn't get in our childhood. So if we weren't seen, if we were emotionally ignored, or if we felt abandoned by one or both of our parents at some point in our lives when we were young, the important thing to take away from that, from how painful that is to learn how to reparent ourselves. Learn how to be that emotionally available parent that we never had for ourselves. Nurture that part of ourselves that felt not enough, or felt too much, or that felt really unworthy and unloved, that felt inadequate in whatever ways. None of that is true. That was your experience at one time in your life, but it doesn't have to continue to be your experience and your reality. You have the choice in the here and now, as an adult, as an aware, conscious adult, to not continue to parent yourself in a way, the way that your parents misparented you. You have the opportunity to shift that, and thus shift your reality. The more that you attend to those parts of yourself in a loving, compassionate, nurturing way that didn't get their needs met, that didn't have that nurturing parent, that loving parent to give that positive encouragement and emotional support, or in some cases you also didn't have material support too, which compounded those issues. But you have the opportunity now to shift that by choosing every day to show up for you, to come home to your true self, and to be that version of you, that higher, more elevated version of you before the world got a hold of you, before all those painful family patterns emerged. The you that you were born as, you were born as a beautiful, perfect, sentient light. The world's conditioning, your family conditioning, that's unfortunately was probably quite toxic and demeaning in a lot of ways, dehumanizing in some ways, maybe exploitative, whatever it was, at least didn't allow you to be your true self. You had to perform in this other way as a mode of survival, as a means of survival, whatever that was. The opportunity, it's in shedding that coat of armor that helped you survive. And it's thanking that coat of armor, that those defense mechanisms that you created, those personas, that maybe that chameleon-like personality that you adopted, ways of being, the masks that you're able to put on in different settings, slowly allowing those masks to drop and allowing your true light to shine. And I'm saying slowly because for some it may feel like too much, too triggering to say, just do it, right? And I understand that. But you determine the speed that's right for you, whatever that is. I wouldn't worry about the speed in which that happens. It's more about the consistent awareness and consciousness behind the fact that, oh, I put on this mask every day and I perform in a certain way and I'm constantly anxious and I don't feel connected to my heart space. I don't feel connected to myself because I'm always trying to please someone else outside of me, something outside of me. There's this voice, this angry voice in my head, this challenging voice, this disappointed voice, whatever that voice is. It's a programming that you took on from childhood that helped your parents control the way you behaved, or whoever your caregiver was. It helped them keep you performing and acting in a way that kept you manageable for them, that made their immediate day-to-day life a lot easier with having a child or multiple children to look after. So for this week, I want to just say that this new reality of you, this new version of you, it already exists. It's already out there. It's waiting for you to choose it, to pluck it out of those infinite possibilities that you could choose. But it's waiting for you to choose that higher version, that version of you that you would feel most delighted to be, most proud of, most grateful for. And it's your most authentic self, that brightest version of you that's deeply attuned to your heart and that's less mental. You're going to start a process of bringing your mind and your heart more into steady communication, that awareness, of your body, of your life force, of your goodness. Of your immeasurable capacity to love and to shine brightly. That's the you. That's the you that I'm calling forth, and I'm asking you to begin feeling grateful for, to begin moving into the feeling tone as a consistent practice. The feeling tone of feeling grateful for the you that you are becoming, for the you that you've always wanted to be. The more that you align with that person, that opportunity, that higher version of you that you would be most delighted to be and feel immense gratitude for, that is the one that I'm inviting you to begin to connect with, begin to attune to, begin to embody, envision, and feel gratitude for. The more that you do that and you sit with that higher vibrational energy in a flow state, connected to your heart space, allowing your mind, your head to merge more and more with your beautiful, loving, awake heart. The more that you take time and care to nurture yourself, with havening just being one of a multitude of practices that you can employ in the moment when you might be feeling some difficult emotions arising. The sooner you can allow those heavy storms of emotions to dissipate within this nurturing, loving presence that is you, without judgment, without criticism, but with loving care in your heart, as that loving, compassionate, caring, nurturing parent that you likely never had as a child, but you can have now in yourself. That is the you that will collapse time and embody your greater potential, your highest self, that will have clarity about what your purpose is in life and what you really want to do, and you will have that fortitude to just start, to take imperfect action at first. It often starts with imperfect action and feeling maybe a little anxious and a little bit like an imposter at first. And that's just the old version of you beginning to put up some resistance, but then also slowly beginning to drop away as well, to reveal more and more of that greater potential, that light within you, to reveal your more authentic self. The you that isn't so concerned with what everyone else thinks, with what your parents thought, with what your grandparents thought, aunts, uncles, caregivers of any kind, that isn't so concerned with presenting a specific, culturally conditioned, socially seemingly acceptable image that can just keep you endlessly safe. What if you already are safe, and the safest thing you can do is to reparent yourself, to nurture and love yourself so that you feel more safe within your very being and your body, more grounded. And by safe, I mostly mean just grounded and connected. Because when we are grounded and connected within our heart space, when our head, our mind is merged within our heart space, there's no space for worry. There's no space for anxiety. There's even a light, playful energy here. All the critical energy just isn't there. You feel alive. You feel present. You feel more able to try new things. To be your highest, greatest self. The self that you would feel most delighted to be. And you shine that visceral light that you before the world got a hold of you. So that's my invitation this week. To bring yourself into a space of gratitude. Gratitude for this new version, this new reality that is you. This you that you would feel most delighted to be, most proud of. And to nurture yourself when you feel those inevitable, very human storms, right, of emotion come up. Choosing a practice that most serves you and helps you, whatever that might be. And for some of you, it might be finding the right support. It might be consulting with a psychologist or a counselor of some kind, a coach, a doctor. And for others, it might be trying havening. It might be more meditation. It might be more reflective journaling. It might be being more consistent about caring for yourself with an exercise routine. Giving yourself more consistent, healthy food to feel better. And it might be just holding the intention and actively becoming more aware, more present with yourself, and becoming more of the witness of those emotions that arise and those thought forms, those framings that you may have about yourself, those negative frames about yourself or certain others in your life or the world at large, and how it treats you and treats other people that you care about. It might just becoming a bit more aware of those stories and those frames that you have running, and that are, of course, to some degree, creating your reality. And it's not to say that the world isn't a difficult place. It's a very difficult place at times. It's not set up in a way that really fosters and encourages us to bring out these greater parts of ourselves. It often actively discourages that, these institutional systems that we live within. That's, of course, further affected by the cultures and the countries and the family structures that you were brought into. It's not to say that that doesn't exist and we should ignore that. Absolutely not. It's to say that we have taken on certain belief systems and framings because of our individual experiences and our socio-cultural experiences, including the economic structures, the institutions that we are immersed in or that surround us. But even with all that, there is still choice. There is still lots of choice within us. Agency, if you'd like to use that word. To choose to come home to ourselves and to nurture ourselves in spite of the world. To choose to be who we are before the world got a hold of us. To love ourselves, to be that strong, beautiful, spirit, soul, person who has that deep loving connection between their heart and their head, who isn't fully identified with just the mind and all of its plays and all of its belief systems that it very much inherited from the culture and our family systems. What we believe and what we embody and enact and how we choose to live every day really is what creates our reality. Wishing you well, wishing you a beautiful week. Thank you for listening today.